Welcome to Drones Down Under podcast. We're starting season 2. Welcome, Ty. Welcome, Brandon.
Hi.
So we finished season 1. We got through 13 episodes, guys. Very well done.
That's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think 13 more than we planned, which is very good.
we got there. We did them. We do get there.
Exactly. So season 2, we're all very excited. A lot of things already been planned underway. But today we've got our special guest, Mahmood Hussein, who's the Chief Executive Officer from Global Drone Solutions. Welcome, Mo.
Thank you.
Before we, I want to talk a little bit about his bio. So let me go through that for a couple of minutes. So Mahmood Hussein is a Chief Executive Officer of Global Drone Solutions, a CASA-approved drone pilot training organisation. Mahmood is a seasoned senior executive, strategist, and CASA-certified drone pilot, having held numerous senior executive positions with national and multinational market leaders in the mining, automotive, and advanced manufacturing industries. Global Drone Solutions harness drone technology to solve both social and business problems and create new business opportunities. It provides tailored drone training and consulting to a broad range of industries. Outcomes include reduced operational costs, reduced risk, improved operation efficiencies, and most importantly, improved safety. So Mo, very good bio there, and I've heard you speak a number of times, and we were all excited to have you on board. I think we're all very in awe of your passion for the industry, and I think we need more of you, and we're looking forward to the next 60 odd minutes or so. So tell us a little bit about your journey. How did young Mo get started before you got into drones?
Thank you, Sean, for your kind words and introduction. Look, not a lot of people realize that I'm 65 years of age, so I've been around the traps a little bit. And I'm a mechanical engineer. I work for a lot of large companies to turn them around if things aren't going right. And I got an opportunity 4 or 5 years before I started Global Drone Solutions to turn a couple of businesses around for Deloitte. And the second business I worked for, I was their CEO, had been in a mining boom and lost money. And so I was put in to see if I could turn that business around. And I said to their chairman, very difficult to do that when you consider that you've lost money, right? When there's 80,000 pieces of equipment in the mining industry. Now we're down to 20. So we're going to have to look at something different. So I introduced a few of the products, made some changes within the business. I said, you need something definitely new. And I'd seen Rio Tinto and BHP starting to use drones. And I said, what about drones? And he said, no, I just want to stick my knitting, right? But I was that interested that for the next 2 years, which was a 2-year contract I had, at nights I would research, drones and where they were going, and realized that it had lots of legs. And this was in 2014. And then when my 2-year contract finished, I started Global Drone Solutions exactly, 6 years ago.
Okay. Awesome.
And what made you, maybe tell us a little bit about what Global Drone Solutions is about.
Yeah. Well, look, one of the lucky things was that 2 years of research allowed me to pinpoint that inspections were a bit early, right? And when I spoke to my friends, and of course I still had a lot of connections in the mining industry, and they all said, look, yeah, good idea, Mahmood, but it's still a toy, right? Yeah. And to be honest, there were a lot of drones that were falling out of the sky in them days as well. And I think it's more to do with the props than anything else. But anyway, people don't look at the, why. They just say they see some drones, dropping out. And I realized that the inspection business might be very hard to start, but training would be something that would continue to grow. And as the business grew, there would be more demand for pilots and therefore training. So that's the reason why I went into training, although knowing that it could take between 9 and 15 months to get CASA's approval. So how do you fund a new project, for that period of time without no income? And look, I'm a big picture person. I feel very comfortable in marketing and business development. And I'm not one for writing manuals and training material. So I took on a young lady that I'd worked for or worked with before. And I said, that's your job. My job is, while you're building this, I will go away and make the connections. And that's what it took us 9 months, which was in most cases a record. But what we did is we actually took on 2 or 3 ex-pilots from the aviation industry to help finish that training material. And I think them working with me part-time for 3 months fast-tracked where we got to. So September 2016, we delivered our first training program, and we never looked back since.
Right. And is there any kind of, as prior to training, can you talk about that process? You mentioned 9 months. Obviously, it's not a process that too many people would have been familiar with. And I'm sure you didn't have a network. You could go and ask, what the experience is, or, how you could potentially shortcut some of those timeframes.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Sean, because I thought it would be relatively easy. A shortcut would be to go and buy somebody else's material, right? And then modify it, change it, improve it. But of course, the drone industry was in its infancy, and so there was nobody around sharing that information. But luckily, I did have friends who were, pilots, so they gave us an outline of what was required by looking at what CASA's material was available. And the lady that I was working with, Vanessa, she had experience in developing Cert 3, Cert 4 training material. So very quickly, so she really was an instructional designer. So she knew what the structure was going to be. And then what we had to do is invite people from the aviation industry to help us pull that together. So no, it's an arduous journey without a shadow of doubt. Like I said, not from the aviation background, but luckily having connections in that industry so that we could get advice, and that's why we ended up taking these guys on for 3 months. We were able to get quite a bit done in the first 4 or 5 months. I then went away and got my after that. That helped to cement where we were going and how we were going to finish that material off. But I don't think I could have done it without them 3 months of aviation experts in our business.
Right.
But since then, of course, we've had the new manual of standards. Just to give you an example, when we first got approved, our student manual was 145 pages. It currently sits at 560 pages. Now, some of it is to do with manual standards, but we had continually improved it. And look, it's not something I say lightly, but I do believe we have now got some of the best training material anywhere in the world, not just in Australia.
That's great. Well, you've had lots of years to refine and get that feedback, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that, it's taking feedback from the industry as well. So the best people to tell us whether we were good, bad, or indifferent would be our graduates, right? And if you Google Global Drone Solutions reviews, we have 222, I think, 5-star Google reviews. And if you read 3 or 4, you get the gist. The 3 things that people tell you is that, yes, we're a good team, we're very friendly, very helpful. We've got great training facilities, and we've got exceptionally good instructors. Now, most of our instructors, because of the aviation industry downturn due to COVID, it's been a godsend for us, because we've now got 5 instructors that are all commercial pilots, used to fly for Emirates, Qantas, Dreamliners, A380s. So they bring a big professional approach to everything that they do. And I think the graduates are a little bit overawed with, wow, we're learning to become drone pilots, but this guy, flies A380s or Dreamliners for British Airways, right? So again, that's what it's all about. It's ensuring that the graduates get a fantastic experience. And what I've always said is, if we do this right and the graduate or the potential client student gets a fantastic experience from the time he makes the first call and inquires right through to graduation, and then afterwards as well, then we will have a good, strong business. And that's exactly what has happened, So 20% of our business is from previous graduates and through recommendations. And in that time, we've managed to get businesses from some of the largest companies in the world. So, we are vendors to Rio Tinto, BHP, Fortescue, in the mining industry, in the oil and gas, Shell, Chevron, Woodside. We have a Cert 3 in aviation which we deliver to high schools, so 15 and 16-year-olds, which includes a remote pilot license as well. So we're in a broad range of industries, but again, it's being able to knock on that door and tell them what we can do. And then if they send us 2 or 3 students, they have fantastic experience, and then we end up getting all their business. Right? Simple.
Can you share a little bit about what some of that training is actually, the companies just talked about? What type of work are they using their pilots for?
Yeah, look, very good question. When we first started, and if you looked at mining industry 6 years ago, Rio Tinto and BHP were some of the early adopters, and they started off using drones for volumetric measurement of stockpiles, right? And they did that probably for the first year. But now if you go to the mining industries, you'll see that they're using them for, measuring stockpiles, but they also use them now for pit wall inspections. They're using them for haul roads. They're using them for tailing dams. We're now working with a couple of large mining companies where we're trying to deliver components into the pit. To give you an example, one of the mines, and the BHP and Rio Tintos and Newmonts, they're all very similar. They're such a large mine sites that it takes a mechanic or a technician 30 minutes to drive into a pit. Now you can imagine if something has broken down and he drives all the way down there and it's got the wrong part, or he realizes he needs another hose or some other component. By the time he's driven 30 minutes back and had a cup of tea and had a chat with his mates, that's an hour and a half, 2 hours gone. Well, why don't we just send the drone down there with that component? And we know that we relatively easily find drones that'll carry up to 2 kilos. I mean, the off-the-shelf DJI product will carry, like the M210 will carry 2 kilos, right? And so it's fairly easy to do, but the biggest challenge, as we all will no doubt talk in more detail, is the regulator, right? And they're a bit slow, but again, in their sort of corner, we're an industry that's moving so fast, and they're a large bureaucratic organization that takes time to process. Turn that ship around is going to be a big job.
One of our favorite topics, but
so
Yeah.
what we're doing now, which is very interesting, is we've currently got a project with Rio Tinto, with Precepto. I'm sure you've met Precepto, the drone in a box, organization, where a lot of these mining companies now gone into autonomous operations with haul trucks, now drill rigs, and the list is growing. And of course, we've got the biggest robot in the world, which is their Rio Tinto's train, right? Which is totally autonomous. And so what we're working with them is how do we operate a drone 2,000 kilometers away, right? So there's a lot of time and effort being spent with the likes of Rio Tinto on, utilizing drones, but it might be working in Western Australia's Pilbara, but the control center here is here in Perth. And we're working through, with CASA on how we achieve that. We're working with another company called Hover. You may know Hover, Jackie.
Yep.
She's been very, very helpful in making that happen. And with Chris Lane, from Perceptor. So there's a lot of effort and time that goes in to make that happen. If we make that happen, the beauty about it is it's going to be a lot easier to then replicate in other areas.
Good.
What are you finding the most challenging part in that process? Because I guess in my mind, maybe it's the regulator from that side of things. But is that right? Is it more the regulations and the things, I guess, the loops that you have to jump through and all that sort of stuff to get it right? Because in my mind, I can see the product on the market already.
Yeah.
It's ready to go. It's just more, are we allowed to do it? And how do we do it here in Australia?
Yeah. Look, Brendan, you're absolutely right there. The product capability is there, and it's been there for probably a year or even 2 years. We had a company here from Israel called Aerobotics, and they were here 3 years ago with drone in a box. To be honest, they were too early, right? They had a great product, right? But trying to get CASA's approval and all the other insurance requirements and everything else, and even the businesses like BHP just couldn't get their head around having a 5 or 6 kilo aircraft flying around above equipment and people. Whereas, nowadays, quite a few of the mining companies have got operations where that might only be half a dozen people running the whole mine, right? Because it's remote operations. So the challenge we're facing is the equipment is available, technology is available, is the regulator. And you can't blame the regulator. Their job is to make sure that everything, is safe. But to what extent? The challenge is, this is new to them as well. So, I hear it every day, and Jackie is the one who, is, I know at the forefront of this, where she's working with the CASA nearly every day to get some approval for another aircraft or another platform from overseas. And that's why you're right, you're seeing all these drone in a box options, on the marketplace, right? I had a long 1 hour, probably an hour and a half discussion with Jackie yesterday on where, she saw, products moving, because we want to be at the forefront. It's all about, things like this, discussing and seeing and sharing ideas and experiences. So yes, the answer in short is the regulations. We understand that because some of the things we're trying to do are new, and CASA will want to come and see and develop. So it's happening. 2 years ago, if we'd gone to CASA and said, look, we're looking at remote operations, they'd have laughed you out of the room, right?
Yeah.
And now they're saying, okay, well, should tell us more. How do we, get involved? What needs to happen? And I think, look, there's been some changes in CASA at the top, and I'm starting to see some of the benefits slowly cascading. But again, it's a large organization. There's a lot more collaboration between CASA and the industry as well. We see the new, requests for information and input, and hopefully a lot of people have done that input. But there are new applications as well, and new technology. It's no longer about drones. It's more about the applications and the payloads. Just imagine in 6 years, we've the first drone that we used was a Phantom 2, and we thought that was awesome. Now you've got an M300, right? Yes, the cost is 10 times, but the benefits and technology changes are 300 times, right?
Yeah.
Most decent drones now coming out with 360 degree cameras to be able to detect and avoid other aircraft or property. So yeah, it's a very exciting space to be.
Yeah, where do you think you see the industry going? I mean, with I know you're talking about the autonomy and obviously the regulations are sort of what slow everything down, but you've been in a space where you obviously do a fair bit of research into the industry and the technology available. Where do you really think, particularly in Australia, obviously, where we'll be heading in sort of the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, I know there's the talk of the drone Uber kind of thing that they're supposed to be starting in Brisbane next year and a few things like that. So it's quite an interesting space, and someone with your depth of knowledge, it'd be interesting to get your perspective on where you think it's going.
Yeah, well, look, I make it my business to understand where this business or this industry is going. And the reason for it is I want to be prepared. And I want to focus on training, right? Because I do believe that there is so much opportunity. We've had lots of opportunities to go into inspections and all the rest of it, but we've resisted that. So where I see things happening, and you guys will already see it, and that is that unmanned traffic management system, the amount of time and money that's been invested, the talent that some of the companies are putting together is absolutely awesome, right? Really, really good to see. And to be honest, you know, if I look at WA and we have a CBD, St. George's Terrace, if I wanted to fly there tomorrow, I would need about 50 people's permission. And I'm not going to get that, right? So
you won't be flying tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think the challenge now is with the unmanned traffic management system comes along with the air corridors, right? And that will mean that all we have to do is get the regulator's permission. So basically freeways, you know, in the sky. And I honestly do believe that we're a lot closer than a lot of people believe we are. I mean, if you just look at, you know, what Wing are doing, you know, in Canberra and in Logan, right? You're delivering tea, coffee, pizzas, and now medicine, COVID, you know, jabs. Now they, you know, on top of a shopping center, I believe in Melbourne, delivering, you know, you buy something from the shop downstairs and have it delivered by a drone, right? That's massive, you know, steps in this industry in a very short period of time. And Wing have learned a lot, you know, and we know that they've been using Australia as a testing ground. You know, they went to Finland and said, look, we've tested this in a very high, you know, hot environment. And literally took a month to get approval to do that. And similar in the US as well, I believe, right? So that's two things. Look, Ty, you mentioned air taxis, but there's a lot of areas that's going on in there, right? I mean, now you've got organizations who are, you know, literally signing agreements. I saw something on LinkedIn today that one of the taxi companies is looking at signing an agreement with a car parking organization to use the top of their car parks. What a wonderful idea. The infrastructure is already built, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know too much about the East Coast, but certainly in Perth, we have a lot of tall buildings in the CBD that are, you know, ideal for, you know, air taxis, you know, the square, flat, you know, roofs, right? And it wouldn't take that much more to, you know, put something in place to make that happen, right? And then, of course, when you look at air taxis, you know, you'd be looking at putting them in high traffic areas like railway stations, bus stations, shopping centers, and that would have a big positive impact on our road transport, because it basically means takes vehicles off the road, you know. Yeah. The other thing that's quite exciting and is the fuel systems, right? So, you know, for the last few years, we've worked with electrical, you know, and a mechanical, you know, propulsion, but now you've got hydrogen coming along, and that's going to be a game changer if you think about it. You know, the air taxis I've looked at, you know, they can do 2 hours of flight it's 200 kilometer flight with electric, and they can do 800 kilometers, you know, with hydrogen. I mean, that, and I can tell you from WA, that makes a massive difference, right? So we can go down to our wine region, Margaret River, which is 300 kilometers away, very easily. With a 200-kilometer journey, you'd have to stop, recharge, and all the rest of it, right? So these fuels are changing as well. So you can see it's no longer just about the drone, it's all the other, technology that goes with it. And then, of course, you see LiDAR. Look at Emerson and what they managed to do, right? Now, like I say, I've worked in the mining industry, and underground mining, very, very difficult. Of course, as a GPS is denied, location. Now with using robots, where you have a robotic platform that's like a 4-wheel drive, you put the M300 on top of that with a LiDAR unit, take it down there, from, remotely. And then when it gets to the cave or the stope he wants to inspect, flies, does this job, comes back, lands, and brings it back out again, right? Well, guys, it's just phenomenal. And then, of course, you've got multispectral. I won't go into that in much detail, but agriculture, as you know, is a very big industry for drones. Powered lift, which I believe is going to overtake the fixed wing aircraft that we have, because it's an ideal situation. On mine site, you don't have little, airstrips. Your most expensive component is your payload, and that's underneath the aircraft, right? So powered lift being able to take off and then land in the same spot, it is another, game changer. But, the one thing that really excites me about powered lift, that the other things that it allows us to do, and that is heavy lift. Now, you can't do heavy lift with fixed wing. Well, you can, but it's very, very difficult to do. With powered lift, it's relatively easy, right? So if you think about marine applications, taking goods from shore to ship and vice versa, a lot of times, all they need is 2 kilograms, 3 kilograms, maybe 10 kilograms of components or documents, right? And we send out a little barge or a little boat to get there. Well, that's all right. That's not too bad. It's a nice little job for somebody. But when they get there, how do you get this, documents or 3 kilo, product from the ocean up, up to the ship, which is 3 stories high? So it can take a half a day, whereas with a, a powered lift 2, 10, 15 kilo aircraft, you can easily do that in about 10 minutes and have it back, right? Emergency goods, when somebody's not well, right? We are trying in Perth to keep the ships away from Fremantle Harbour. Well, what happens is, we've got a couple of them now coming in. We know they've got COVID, people on board. So why not, keep them out into the outer harbour and then, fly a drone with the COVID kits and medicine, so there's that sort of stuff. So you can see it's combining different technologies, and I'm really excited about powered lift and where they can go and the benefits it will have. We're currently working with WA Health and a couple of companies. One is called Swiss Drones, and the other one is Command. And Command have an aircraft that, a drone that can fly 2 or 3 hours and can take up to half a ton, 500 kilograms. That's awesome. Crazy. Yeah. So look, air taxis, one of the benefits I see with air taxis is something you mentioned, Ty, is not a lot of people are realizing that when they look at air taxis, they're just looking at it as carrying humans. Well, I think before they carry humans, they're going to carry cargo.
Yeah, cargo.
It's a perfect solution, right?
Definitely.
Carry, 500 kilograms of, medicine, or, like in a WA, we get cyclones. And when that happens in the north, some of our communities are, disengaged, can't get to them. And it's the roads that are flooded, right?
Well, we just had this similar problem here in North Queensland with the floods that came through just recently. And that was a big part of the problem with the trucks, is essentially that main strip of highway that runs up between central coast Queensland and North Queensland was just completely cut off. Yeah. So to have that capability and to be able to do that now potentially with drones, I agree with you. I think cargo is really where it can make a huge difference. Like, don't get me wrong, the drone taxi is cool, the concept obviously, but the cargo side of things, that's a serious game changer, particularly in Australia where we rely on trucks.
Yeah. And look, we've got a lot of communities, remote communities, and it's urgent medicine. Sometimes, with a truck might take 3 days. I can tell you, we recently trained 10 people from an Aboriginal corporation up in the Pilbara. Well, it took us a whole day to get there. It took our drones, the M300, 3 days to get there, and that was like a direct. We paid extra money to get it there, and then we put it back on a normal, truck, and it took 7 days to get back here. Right? Well, I'm sorry, but that ain't going to work. So if we can have drone hubs, and that's what we're talking to the Aboriginal corporations about, and Rio Tinto and BHP are helping with that process, where we can have hubs. We've got local rangers trained who can help deliver that product. Our job is to get that product to a point that we can get to, and then their job would be then to use smaller drones to distribute that to their communities. So no, look, there's lots of good stuff going on with drone industry, and that's why I'm excited. The last bit I would like to say that it's combining aerial robots with land-based robots, terrestrial robots like Boston Dynamics Dog. And if you've seen the video from Percepto, you'll see that you've got a drone and then it can't go and do certain things because it's under a structure. Well, it directs the Boston Dynamics Dog to go and do that, capture that data, come back out, so where there is GPS, and then transfer that data. The key to it is there's a lot of changes going on there, and there's got to be some sort of code of ethics. Otherwise, we're all going to be, killed off like that. Is it what the Black Mirror somebody mentioned, right?
Yeah, I think of Terminator 2. Just goes back to that serious scenario. Every time I see smart robots, I'm like, yep, we're going to die soon.
Yeah.
At least we'll be in the forefront.
I think they tested the AI that they made with I think Twitter and Google. That they made an AI and they gave it a Twitter account, and they realized it was a bad idea once the AI started to learn how humans react and how we analyze things and whatnot. And basically, the Twitter bot came to the conclusion that the human race needed to die, and they thought they should probably switch it off.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's a Reddit thread as well. I can't remember the name of it, but there is a Reddit thread that it is all AI talking to itself. It's AI conversation. It's nothing, no human interaction, nothing. It's all AI based, and it's just continuously talking. And when you read it, it is quite literally like you're reading Twitter or something like that. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's wild.
You see, it's good, but again, it's how we manage it. Because to be honest, as soon as I talk to people about the Boston Dynamics Dog, there are two reactions. One is, oh, brilliant, love one of them. Just don't have $100,000. Or, oh no, the worst nightmare, right? And keep bringing up this Black Mirror. I haven't watched that movie, by the way, but I've been told that's where
TV series, and I highly recommend it. You've been in the tech industry a little bit, you'll enjoy it, and it's a quite interesting perception on what could happen in the future.
Yeah. Well, look, I think the ethics that the government will have to put some sort of ethics in place for us to do that. And what the people I work with in this space, they're saying that it should never be a robot to a robot. It should always be a human to a robot, right? And so it's making sure that the human is kept in the loop. Because as you guys have said already, AI is moving at a phenomenal rate of knots. Then you link that to virtual reality, augmented reality, machine learning, and wow, suddenly think that there is, and we got the computer power now to be able to do all that, right? So look, it's an exciting space to be in, but I'm sure, like the drones were regulated, I'm quite sure that this will happen here as well. There's no doubt about it. As a matter of fact, one of the things our business is doing right now is we're morphing into the broader robotic space. So aerial robots, terrestrial robots, and we're working with a company on subsea robots as well. a lot of people don't realize the amount of infrastructure that we have, certainly around Western Australia, and I'm sure it's the same everywhere else, that has to be maintained, kilometers underwater. So how are we going to do that, right? So that's the sort of areas we're getting, involved with, because the client's coming in and seeing us. That's the benefit of working with the likes of Rio Tinto and BHP and Woodside, is that they've got challenges and say, well, we've seen this particular, give an example, Woodside have got 2 of them Boston Dynamic dogs, but the drawback to it is they're not intrinsically safe. In other words, they still have sparks when you energize them, and you've got pinch points and things like that. So they're playing about with them. They're trying to find a way of making them intrinsically safe. So is 3 or 4 other, European companies as well, right? Because it's a big market, just like Emerson's hover, LiDAR unit. And so we're getting involved with that, because they want to say, right, if that can happen, then how can we use the Boston Dynamics dog to go and change certain valves, right? But it's being directed by that data is then being taken from that Boston Dynamics dog to a drone that can then go and give it to the control room, right? So the Boston Dynamics dog is sharing information. He's not directing. He's just sharing information that the drone can't access. I mean, to give you an example, again, going back to the mining industry, in gold mining, they use a lot of cyanide. And so they have what we call tank farms, might be 6, might be 10, might be 20 tanks full of cyanide. And somebody's got to go there on a daily basis and look at the dials and make some adjustments. It's not nobody's favorite job, but for Boston Dynamics, it's an ideal job. Goes down there, checks, the control room says, yeah, the dials look all great. No, we need an adjustment. The arms comes out of Boston Dynamics and makes an adjustment to the valve. And then, if that's okay, pulls back and off it goes. Now you're just taking somebody out of a very dangerous, position. Similarly, when you're working in certain mine sites, certainly underground, there's places where the drone can't go, but we need that data. And that's why I absolutely love Emerson's product, because they modularized it so that you can take it off the drone, put it onto the Boston Dynamics dog. And if it can't do the job with the dog, then put it in your backpack and go and do it. Now, that is some real smart engineering, right? So there's a lot of good ideas and product out there. And that's why I am so pleased that I'm in the drone industry. I have to admit, though, when I did my research, the one thing that interested me was that surrounding this drone industry was, artificial intelligence, machine learning, virtual reality. You had batteries and all the, challenges and improvements. You had sense and avoid. So all these are really exciting, industry to be around. So it wasn't just about drones. And then, of course, you've got, communications like 5G now, right? Again, it's going to be a big positive impact on the drone industry.
Yeah,
That's very good. Mo, one of the reasons we started the podcast was like yourself, all of us have come from varied backgrounds. We didn't obviously get born into the drone industry. Yeah. And I'm sure you of all people know, when you started, there's not a lot of help. Someone getting started or wanting to get started into the drone industry, what are your tips or your recommendations as far as going about it, or who should they talk to? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, another good question. So clearly you guys are very good at this podcast job.
It's highly paid. So.
I know that's not true, but that's good. I mean, again, this is what I really like about the community that we've got, is that we're happy to share. To be honest, the industry is so big that even if there was 10,000 more people in the industry, we would still have tons of work, right?
Yeah.
It's just about sharing this information and helping build a very professional industry. And if we make it easy for people to do that, then it'll all come back, because you're finding it yourselves, guys. Each business that you're in, you're seeing you're going and doing a great job, and guess what, the client invites you back again, but not only for that job, he's now found new applications, right? And then the next time you go, now you've got 3 or 4 applications with the same client. What a wonderful opportunity, right? And professional companies can take care of that, but if they're cowboys, unfortunately they can't. So going back to your question, look, we get a lot of people calling us. There is quite a lot of hype, and I have to admit we are part of that hype as well, because when people see a successful business, they think, well, we can do this as well. And of course you can. And so, we get people who have no sales experience, no business experience, and they think that they're going to get a drone pilot's license. There's going to be a queue of people knocking on their door, right? And so our first job is to say, listen, guys, that's not, quite true. You do ideally need another skill with it. Now, one of the best skills is a surveyor. Another one is photography. You've got building inspectors, you've got crane inspectors, you've got engineering, inspectors, asset inspectors. If you've got some sort of experience in that area and the networks, then it's a relatively easy, industry to get into. I mean, what other industry can you go into where you've got cost of, certification, $3,000 with Global Drone Solutions for a 5-day course, right? You've got an REOC application, which we will help you, develop the manuals and library. Another, say, $2,000, including CASA's fees. That's $5,000 for all the certification. I call them the gate openers, right? And then assume that you want to invest in a $3,000, $4,000 drone, add on a few more. Let's say in total of $12,000, you set up in a brand new exciting industry. But that exciting industry, you need other skills with it, right? So if you have set up a drone, not drone business, any other business, you've done that successfully, you've got a tremendous amount of experience. You know what the hard work is going to be and the persistence. You know how to make it happen. And you have networks that you can call on. And to be honest, like I said, that's how I set my business up. I called on the friends I had in the aviation industry, and we literally, developed the training material, right, with their help. Yes, they needed reworking, all that. And now, we like as I said to you earlier, we believe we have some of the best training material in the world. So the advice would be, before you jump into the drone industry, make sure that you've got other skills. There's other skills are, as I've just mentioned, being an engineer or a mechanic or a technician, photographer, surveyor, right? These things will come in handy. The other thing to do is sit back and say, well, are you a people's person? Because every business needs you to knock on doors, right? Even today, I must have called 4 different companies. I've got a team of business development managers, but I will still call companies because it's a relationship I have, or I'll ask somebody, can you introduce me to so-and-so? And, they do. And then, of course, it's now a warm lead. So sales is a big skill. And sales, you have to have thick skin, and you want to be able to, talk to people, right? Now, you don't have to be an extrovert. I've seen some fantastic business people, to be honest, sometimes better, that are introverts. They just know how to build a team around themselves, right? That are extroverts and go and love talking to people, but they do all the other work that people like me don't like doing, right? Paperwork and documentation and things like that. But I got some advice when I was very young and said, just surround yourself with people who are better than you or cleverer than you, and that works a treat, right? Steve Jobs said, we don't take on people to tell them what to do. We take people on who will tell us what to do, right? So it's bringing in the right skill in this, in the business. So if you are joining this industry, make sure you've got some other skills. The least you can have, in my mind, is if you are not an engineer, you're not a mechanic, you're not a building inspector, is that you have a sales ability, right? Because if you've got sales ability, you will knock on doors, you will find your way, and you will get business. And then that's where you start building other people around you to make that happen. So how do you do it? Well, the gate opener is a drone pilot's license. And there are 40 companies who've got that approval from CASA in Australia. And Global Drone Solution is just one of them, right? But what I will say to you, and this is a plug, which I said I wouldn't do, right? Is that before you pick a drone pilot training company, talk to their graduates. And in our case, because, you know, as a business owner, or if you talk to one of my team, they have a vested interest to tell you they're the best. The best people to tell you that is the people who are our graduates. And like I said, we have 222 5-star Google reviews. Just check that out, right? And that will give you an idea whether the company that you're training with has got good name and reputation, it's got good instructors, and they will look after you. It's not about just getting a drone pilot's license, but will they mentor you and help you and support you afterwards? And that's what we're really well known for, right?
That's a great point. Well, while we're on the topic, I know you've got an offer for our listeners and viewers. Do you want to talk about the offer, Mo?
Yeah. Well, look, thank you for that opportunity, and I am so pleased that you guys are taking the time and effort to put this podcast together, because that's what's going to help grow the industry. And seriously, I work with nearly everybody that wants to work with Global Drone Solutions. I have to go out and search for good people, right? So Sean, I knew you before. I've just met two nice people, Ty and Brendan, and we will be talking more about how we can help each other. But what we're prepared to do for listeners and people that are members of this podcast, we give you 15% discount off all our courses. To give you an example, our 5-day course is $3,000. That brings it, you got $450, discount off that. Our online version of that training is $1,700. So you can see it's a reasonable, discount. And by the way, you get both remote pilot's license and your AROC, for that price. And we've got lots of other advanced courses. So just mention the podcast, and we'll give you a 15% discount.
We'll put the your website up, so it's gdronesolutions.com, and we'll also put up a code when we post the podcast. So that's for the month of Feb. Mo?
Well, look,
Right?
I'm relatively easy. If it helps get more people into the industry and good professionals, then yeah, we'll just keep it going.
Sounds good. I think that's great. And like you said, $450 on a $3,000 course. That's a huge discount where someone can put that towards a piece of equipment or something else, which is it's sizable. It's a great opportunity.
Very generous. Yeah. It's awesome.
Thank you very much. It's great.
That's awesome. So Mo, I got a question. When we're, I guess, going back to that topic of what you would do when you're coming into the industry, and sort of going into the space of, having some other skill behind you, would you also go down, sort of point people in the direction of choosing the industry that they want to work within with drones instead of trying to do everything? Or would you say try everything and then see what you like best and go from there?
Yeah. Look, another great, question, guys. I always say to people, because we actually do something extra, we show people how to set up a drone business. And that's 3 hours my time, where I explain how I set up my business and how they can, do theirs in a short, period of time. One of the things I always say is that stick with the knowledge and the industry, because you've got connections there. The challenge we all have as small businesses is we've got limited resources, both human, which could only be, could be one man, one woman job, or financial. And a new business, banks aren't going to give you a lot of money, right? Unless you're prepared to put up collateral. I'm not sure I'd want to put up, my house to set up a drone business, right? So some of the questions that we ask people when they come to us about drone training is, what is their experience? Have they got sales experience? Have they had a business before? What industry are they in? And to help them start that off, the training course might be 2 or 3 weeks down the road. We say, look, come prepared, start making developing a small database, whether you can use an Excel spreadsheet, because that's what I use, or you can get, download free calendar contact databases where you put the contact details and start thinking of all the people that you know, right? And it doesn't have to be people that are in your industry. Do you know somebody who may know that, a real estate agent? Because that's where most people will get their experience from, right? Or do you already know people from, say, the building industry, people like Sean, right? And so if they come to us with 30 or 40 names, I have a way of showing them how I can make that 30 or 40 names into 300 names, right? So what you've then got is a database. And the reason I say build that database is that what most people will do is got their drone pilot's license, they'll rush out and go to their suburb and they've got 10 real estate agents. And they won't think, well, he's already probably got a supplier anyway, right? And so all they do is, listen, I've got my drone pilot's license, I've got insurance, can I have some work? That ain't gonna work. It might have worked 5 years ago, but it ain't gonna work today, right? So we go through a process of showing them what they need to do to get an audience, because that's what you need. It's no good doing it on the phone. And then if you only got 10 people on your list, you soon get disheartened when you've called them 10 and you might have only got 2, interviews or, meetings. But if you've got 300, then you'll find that, you've got, your idea is, let's see if we can get 3 coffees. Now, 3 coffees in a week sounds a little less, but to be honest, it's plenty when you've got other work to do as well. But them 3 coffees have to be strategically placed, and you need to be somebody who's going to, has shown some interest, is going to give you some business, has potential to give you business. Or in many cases, I've had coffees with people that I know could introduce me to somebody in an industry, right? And to give you an example, we train pilots for the water corp here, right? We've had it from, we're one of our biggest clients right from the start. And I tried, because there's such a large organization with different silos, how do you get into the right person? And I've been battling with that one for about 6 months, couldn't get into the right spot. And then I met a friend for a coffee, right, through a LinkedIn connection. And just in passing, I said to him, you wouldn't know anybody in the water corp, would you? And he says, yeah, as it happens, I do. But I'd heard that a number of times before and nothing came of it. Anyway, Darren, Smith is his name. He rings me up the following day and he says, listen, call this guy. As a matter of fact, they're looking for somebody to train pilots, right? And so the rest is history now. We've trained hundreds of them, right? But it's simple having a coffee with a person. And again, he was a small business owner. He wasn't in drones. He was actually into a robot that worked on water to see sediment and measure sediment and things like that. And that's why I asked him about water corp. So keep to the industry that you know, because you only have probably 3 to 6 months before your cash runs out and you're going to need to start bringing cash in. So the industry that you know, make a list of about 300 people. And honestly, if you get stuck with that, give me a shout. I know how to do that very easily. All right. Probably take, I don't know, half a day. But if you do that, that preparation will come in a big way. Because if you did nothing else but call them people, that's a month's worth of work, right? And I say to the guys, if you can't, develop a business with 300 names, then maybe you're not cut out to be in business.
And that training, is that part of the reorg course that you're running as well?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, I think it's worth the $3,000 just in that,
Absolutely.
even if without the license, because that's going to generate money. So
Definitely.
Yeah, well, sure. That's the feedback we get, that a number of people have said, look, don't forget, like I said to you, I'm 65 years of age. I've traveled around the world. I've set lots and lots of businesses, been very successful. And what you get in 3 hours is Mahmood's 50 years in business, right? And it's all shortcuts and learning from experience. That's what it's all about. No cleverer than anybody else.
Yeah.
No, but like you said, it's great to have a license, but you have to have a skill set or recognize that skill set.
Absolutely.
Because most people come into it and forget about their 20, 30 years of work that they've done.
And in the 13 years I spent as a photographer, it was always there was two types of photographers. There's a photographer that's great at photography, and there's a photographer that's great at business.
Yes.
And they're two totally different things. And
Totally
I tell
agree.
you what, I would say 70% of the industry is horrible at business.
Yeah. And to be honest, that's the difference in me. I am very good at business. and I love business as my hobby, right? So when I come into work every day, I'm coming in and I'm absolutely loving it. My wife says, you need to slow down. No way am I going to. The only way I'm going to slow down is I'm 6 foot under. Right? When you enjoy something, guys, right? You know, you've got passion. And look, the other thing that I love doing, right? And we have that capability is helping others get into a career, something they enjoy, make a decent living from it, and be a valuable member of society. Seriously, guys, I love it when I see the pilots going out there, either setting up businesses or they're working for organizations, and I can see them going through the ranks. Now, in WA, just giving an example, I'm so pleased that the chief pilot for Rio Tinto is a drone pilot trained by Global Drone Solutions, right? Three drone pilots, chief pilots for companies have changed hands in December. And every one of the new ones is being trained by Global Drone Solutions, right? And 2 of them I placed. So the people ring me up and say, listen, Mahmood, I need a job, I need to change, what can we do? And I said, great. I know companies who are looking for good pilots, right? There's a lot of pilots out there, but there's not that many good pilots, right? And so helping them go into the right spot. And that's why I said earlier, you know, if you've got sales ability and you love business, you will find your way, right? And honestly, guys, I'm that guy. I'm good at business, but I'm not great at flying. I'm not interested in flying. I set this business up to set up a business, not to go out and train. Yet the first year, and I always recommend that to everybody, don't ask somebody to do something that you were not prepared to do. So the first year, me and Vanessa were the true, instructors. So we know that inside out. We both got Cert 4s in training and assessment, which we got by, through Global Drone Solutions. So we did it. We now know what we expect from our instructors. And then whenever we really get stuck, I mean, I can slot into that, slot for a day or two, right? Not that I want to. But again, as a business owner, you've got to do things that you don't, always enjoy, right?
And keeps you in touch as well, right? I mean, you might learn something.
Absolutely. But the other good thing that's happened, by the way, guys, and this is to help people who want to grow their business and go to the next level, is that go back 2 or 3 years, and as a chief pilot for my company, I had to make sure that, we were all relevant and compliant. But everything stops with me. So then the sales and the marketing, the business development, yes, we grew a team. Now there's 15 of us, but the challenge is that I'm not interested in going and, getting the latest type training, myself. So now CASA have come to a party and they said, look, we can you can have somebody else in your business, right, can do the type training. It's a specialist, as your type, specialist. And therefore, they can do the assessments. Then if anything goes wrong with my business, right, for instance, that person leaves, then the only part of my business that slows down is that one part, right? Because I'm still the chief pilot. I've got a specialist in, as a type trainer. So I'm sure that can happen with you guys as well as some of the areas that you're working. So for me, that was a big, positive for CASA to allow organizations to do that sort of stuff. So CASA, I find now a lot more receptive. You can ask them anything. It might take my time and might cost you a few $1,000s, but they will consider it, right? So they're learning as well. And some really nice, smart people joining CASA now. And I think because they've got that change, I know last 2 or 3 people that have gone in that business think, okay, there is good opportunity for CASA to turn around, right? People from the industry, that's what you need. People have been, couple of them are instructors, being instructors within the industry. One of them, with Global Drone Solutions, and so they can go back. They're taking on people with inspection industry experience in the drone space, right? So they know the challenges the industry faces. So they're coming a long way as well. So keep our fingers crossed.
I agree. I think our recent engagement has been a lot more pragmatic.
Yes.
And at least they're listening, and perhaps the laws may be a little bit dated in some circumstances, but if they're willing to work with us as an industry, that's certainly much better than not listening. So
yeah. Well, look, the other thing I would like to say, guys, is that the line of sight has been holding the industry back a little bit, right? Now with extended line of sight, and certainly beyond line of sight, and now even remote operations, something that we only dreamt about 3 years ago. So the future for this industry is really, really bright. I mean, this beyond line of sight, yes, it still costs quite a few $1,000s to get approval, but you can get it for a whole year. For a mine site, $10,000 for approval is nothing, right? Because they can do it at that site for 12 months. And that cost, as demand grows, and the systems and the processes within CASA are improved, and more aircraft are approved as well, then that cost will come down as well. Right? So really, I'm really excited about the drone industry, because this beyond line of sight is where the future is. And honestly, guys, from where I sit, it's going to mushroom. Right? It's really going to mushroom. The challenge we've had, and we still have, is getting Joe Blogs to accept drones, and they've still got this thing in their head about privacy, right? And look, in some cases, when the idiots do the wrong thing on the beach, we're flying them on the beach and around people, then yes, that takes us a few steps back. But when they see the good things that drones can do, like dropping, packages to remote, areas, or when there's been a disaster, or there's been a requirement to get medicine into an area that's, say, got COVID. Well, why are we putting other people in that area? Why don't we just send the medicine through drones? So lots and lots of great opportunities, lots of great drone applications. And the other thing, by the way, if somebody sends us an email and just goes onto our website, we have an ebook with over 500 drone applications in, right? Probably 30 different industries. That's a good starting point. Have a look at that. It took us a few months to put that back. We did that a year ago. So I reckon that if we were to do that again, we'd probably get 750, 800 applications, right? 100 applications. So, lots and lots of applications. Ask for the free ebook, and, that's a good starting point to join the industry.
You talked about the consumer, which I was going to ask, because we have this segment called Dummy of the Week, because it's pet hate for some of the dumb things people do. Have you got any beginner type training that you run as well, that people can probably refer to if you do?
Well, look, we don't. What we do is we sponsor a number of drone Facebook clubs and groups. So that, and they do a lot of that, and it's fun. I have to keep a very, very fine line that we, as a training organization, right? So I won't get involved with that, but I will direct people to the Facebook groups, and there's tons and tons of help there. I mean, we sponsor them by giving vouchers for drone accessories and things like that. We also sponsor 2 racing clubs in Perth as well, again, to get more people in the industry, because to be honest, the pilots who fly these racing drones, we've trained a few of them, and they're absolutely awesome, right? So that's another area I can just see that is going to grow as a industry on its own.
Yeah, agree. I think that we're getting pretty close to the end. Any other questions, gents, before we do our special questionnaire for Mo?
No, I think this is really good. I think this is great perspective of the industry. I think a lot of people will get a lot of value out of. It's
a lot of good information there. That's a lot of stuff that people couldn't get in a lot of places. So it's I think that's a big help to people out there, especially starting out.
Yeah. And I think it might open people's minds about where the industry is going and what the applications are going to be in the future. Not necessarily, like you said earlier in the podcast, Mo, was people still see them as toys in the air and things like that. And, I think there will be some form of industrial spin to the drone industry in the coming years that a lot of people will jump on board of. And I think that's the really exciting part, because I think that's what excites us about it. We're not really the consumer end. We are that commercial industrial side of things, and where that industry is going is where we're all excited. So it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah. Well, that's why, like I said, I love the industry. Not only that it's a great business to be in, but the friends that you make. And I keep saying to people, look, make a call. In a worst case, if you don't do any business with that person, if you treat it that you made a new friend, right, and you treat them people with respect, you have made another friend. And if that person can't use your services, I'm sure when an opportunity comes and somebody mentions it, so I'll go and see Global Drone Solutions, or go and see Air Inspect and so on. So again, we're the ambassadors. We've got to be doing the right thing, and we've got to spread the word, right, and bring more people into this industry.
I definitely agree.
Yeah. And I think that, I guess, again, we say that all the time, that the podcast is about that, is that, there's 4 of us on this podcast, just as from the hosts, and we're all from different parts of the industry. Other than Ty and Sean, Danny and I and Sean are all very separate. We run our separate businesses, but we're all friends. Yeah. We all work together. It's not about taking work from one another. It's not about taking advantage of other people. The whole point of the podcast was to create an environment where people feel comfortable just reaching out randomly about what they want to do in the industry, or they just want to connect and things like that. And that's that, people like yourselves that we want to get on this podcast is the same mentality of what they want out of this industry going forward. So I think it's really important for most people, for everyone listening to the podcast, to understand if they just want to talk to people, reach out to one of us. I'm sure we're all very capable of having a chat. Even if it's a simple Instagram message or LinkedIn message, might take a couple of days to get back to you, but we're all part of the industry that we want to grow, and we're not going to ignore you. So
very good point, Brendan. And I think that's why I love it. It's just the number of friends I've made is unreal. And it's genuine people too, right? Because they see that they need help, you've helped them. And I've always said 99% of people are really good people, and we can't be making rules and regulations for that 1%. And to be honest, within my business, I won't allow it. For somebody says, oh well, you take a small deposit, and then a week before the guy says, oh, I'm sorry, I've changed my mind. Well, guess what? Our terms and conditions say that you've got to give us 14 days. But to be honest, if you came to me on the Friday and the course starts on Monday, I'll give you all back, all right? Because at the end of the day, I want to leave a relationship intact, right? Yeah. And if the person has changed their mind, so be it. It's not cost me anything yet. So, and it's simple things like that. And when people realize, oh, Joe Bloggs is doing the right thing, they will do the right thing too, right?
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Okay. One of the so we didn't tell you, we've got a surprise segment for you. All right. So we call it 6 in 60. It's basically 6 questions in 60 seconds. So if one of the lads can start the timer.
You getting it up, Ty?
Yeah, I'll get that sorted up.
So it's 6 questions, Mo, and you can answer as best as you like. Cool.
Bring it in front of my face. So
we started, have we?
And starting now.
Okay. So first one, what's your favorite drone?
The Matrice 300.
Great. What's your favorite color?
Green.
Green. Okay. What's your favorite ice cream?
Magnum.
Flavor?
Vanilla.
Vanilla. Good. What's your favorite car?
Aston Martin.
Very
My
good.
grandson is named Aston.
Aston, right? So you influenced that one.
Yeah.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh, Star Trek, mate.
Star Trek. Okay.
Mhm.
Final
Bye.
tricky one. Who's your favorite host? 10 seconds.
Sean, Ty, and Brendan.
Beautiful. You're done. You're a winner.
2 seconds to spare.
Beautiful. Awesome. It's something we've done since the start and we enjoy it. We kept the
Yeah.
questions the same. So it's always great
I'll
hearing
tell you
people's
what,
color
I'm
and
gonna
eye
have a word
square.
with that Andrew Davies, right?
Right.
He's been on here and he hasn't given me a warning.
Never trust a guy from Tassie, right?
No,
Oh, that's
never.
right,
You can't. Yeah,
Mo,
awesome.
thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
It was
Thanks, Mo.
very informative. We've thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm sure if you've got some time, would love to have you on as a host as well. Help us out from time to time. I'm sure you want to question somebody else as well. So, like we said, we want to have this platform to help each other out, and we all also have our day jobs. So,
Yeah, no, look, I said that at the start, guys. I take my hat off to you, right? Because finding this amount of time, and it's not just this amount of time. This is the front part. It's all the work that goes in, behind the scenes, and it's probably 5 or 6 hours for an hour of a podcast. So how you guys are doing it is beyond me. And like I say, bravo, because that's what we need. We need more, professional podcasts that that can share the message. But look, I will commit to doing 1 or 2 for you, or this year. I'll enjoy it. But like everybody else, I think we just got to make that time, because otherwise the industry is not going to grow, and I want to help the industry grow.
well, you obviously have a lot of learning and you obviously training. You bring a specialization that helps the industry for sure. But guys, jump on. There's a great discount that Mo's put on just for the business development. It's bloody worth it. So so go on to gdronesolutions.com. We'll put it up on the video as well, and reach out to the guys, have a chat to them. They're a great bunch of guys, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the course. Thank you again, Mo. We will
Thank you,
touch
guys.
base soon.
Thanks, Mo.
Have a nice
Appreciate you on.
evening, and
Thanks for
I'm off to
listening.
have a beer.
All right.
Enjoy.
See ya.
Until the next
Bye-bye.
one. Bye-bye.
Thanks.